The crash heard across the cafeteria. The crash was deafening. Not just the sound, though that alone froze every student mid-bite in the cafeteria, but the silence that followed. Forks paused mid-air. A carton of milk slipped from someone's hand and splashed to the floor. Then came the laugh, sharp, cruel, unmistakably deliberate. Raina's wheelchair lay on its side, one wheel spinning aimlessly. The metal footrest was bent, her backpack had burst open, and her sketchbook pages fluttered across the floor like fallen feathers. She wasn't crying, not yet, but her breath came in short, stunned gasps as she sat on the cold tile floor, trying to push herself upright with one weak arm. Her right leg was braced, still healing from the surgery, and useless beneath her. The other kids didn't move, not yet. They watched Dot, and so did the bullies. "Oops," said Kendall, tall and smug, arms crossed over her knockoff designer jacket. "Guess that thing's not built for tight spaces." Laughter erupted from her table. The same group who had whispered and snickered when Raina first rolled into school 2 weeks ago. The same ones who called her crash test dummy, and made tire-screeching sounds when she entered a classroom. Kendall's boyfriend, Jason, the one who always wore a backwards cap and chewed gum like it owed him money, casually nudged Raina's water bottle across the floor with his foot. It rolled under a vending machine. "You dropped something." "Wheels," he said, grinning. Still, Raina didn't speak, didn't shout. She only looked up at them, her lips tight and trembling, her cheeks bright with heat. One of the cafeteria aides was finally rushing over, but it was too late. The humiliation had already taken root and was blooming fast. Phones were out. Some students had already started recording. Raina's hand closed around one of her crumpled sketch pages, the one with the drawing of her and her brother by the ocean. She didn't care if anyone saw it, but she did care that her wheelchair, her freedom, was wrecked, and they were laughing. The nurse's office smelled like bleach and hand sanitizer. Raina sat on the cot, biting the inside of her cheek. Her elbow was scraped, her hip bruised, but she hadn't cried. The school counselor, Ms. Dove, sat beside her with a clipboard and a nervous smile. "Raina, honey," she said, "I just need you to tell me what happened." Raina looked away. She knew the game. If she told the truth, Kendall would get a slap on the wrist and come back the next day with a smile and a new target. If she kept quiet, nothing would change either, but at least she wouldn't be labeled a snitch. Not that it mattered. The kids already saw her as different, fragile, pathetic. "They bumped into me," she mumbled. "Accident." Ms. Dove nodded slowly. "Okay, thank you for telling me." Liar, Raina thought. "You don't believe me? But it's easier for you this way." That night, Raina sat in her room, her broken wheelchair propped awkwardly in the corner like a carcass. The frame was bent. One armrest had snapped clean off. The joystick was cracked. Her backup chair, the one that squeaked with every push, was back in storage, and she knew her mum wouldn't be able to afford repairs for weeks. She stared at the sketchbook in her lap. Her fingers traced the ripped drawing. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You think you're better than us just 'cause you're broken." Another buzz. "Don't worry. That chair looks stupid anyway." A third. "Hope your brother shows up to push you next time." Raina's fingers tightened around her phone. They knew about him. About Caleb. Caleb was a name barely spoken aloud in the house. Not since he left. Not since the letter came. Raina remembered the morning her mum opened it, how her hands had shaken as she read it over and over. Caleb had enlisted without telling anyone, said he needed to get away, said he had to prove something. He never came back. That was 2 years ago. They'd gotten the call last spring. Caleb had gone dark on a mission, presumed captured, maybe dead, no body, no answers. But Raina never believed it. He was her protector, her best friend. When she first lost mobility in her legs, it was Caleb who helped her learn how to fight back. He built obstacle courses in the backyard, dared her to race him down the street, taught her how to take a fall without fear. "Heads up, little sis, don't ever look down." But he wasn't here now, and she was drowning without him. The next day, Kendall strutted past her locker like nothing had happened. She even winked. "New wheels yet, or are you going Flintstone style today?" The girls with her laughed, loud, unbothered. Raina turned away, pretending she didn't hear. She wheeled herself slowly to class in the old chair. It creaked and groaned with every rotation, and by the time she got to the art room, her hands were blistered. But when she sat down and pulled out her sketchbook, her pencil moved like a weapon. She drew a scene, a battlefield. her broken chair in the middle. Standing behind it, a shadow, tall, strong, face hidden by glare. But in the shadow's fist was a helmet, her brother's. By Friday, a rumor started. Someone had seen Raina talking to a soldier outside school. Someone else said she was lying, just trying to get sympathy. Another person claimed she was going to sue the school. The tension was building. Kendall wasn't laughing as much now. She kept glancing at Raina in the hallways, trying to gauge if she was bluffing. Jason, on the other hand, doubled down. He shoved a sticky note into Raina's locker. Even, "Your brother ditched you. Can't blame him." This time, she didn't cry. She smiled, just once, because that morning, she'd gotten a text from an unknown number. No message, just a photo, a dusty pair of army boots, and a dog tag. Friday, jam 12:45 PM. Cafeteria. Raina sat alone, eating a sandwich, ignoring the sideways glances. Her old chair squeaked as she moved slightly. People murmured, some watching, others recording again, waiting to see if Kendall would strike again. She did. Kendall sauntered up with her usual smirk. Jason followed. "No bodyguard today," Kendall said, loud enough for half the cafeteria to hear. Raina tilted her head. "I don't need one," Jason sneered. "Oh right. Forgot you've got those killer wheels." He reached forward, slow, taunting, and gripped the handle of her chair, like he might tip it again. That's when the door slammed open. Hard. Everyone turned. A man stood there, dusty combat boots, army green, broad shoulders, tan skin, a familiar glint in his eye. Raina's eyes widened, heart leaping to her throat. Caleb. He didn't say a word, just walked forward. Each step was slow, deliberate. Jason's hand slipped off the chair. Kendall took a step back. Raina didn't breathe. Caleb stopped beside her, placed a hand on her shoulder. "You good?" he said, his voice low. She nodded, barely able to speak. He turned to face the cafeteria. His eyes scanned the crowd, then locked onto Jason and Kendall. No anger, just something harder, calmer, dangerous. "Is there a problem here?" Caleb asked. No one answered. Even the bullies stayed silent. Then, with a small smile, Caleb knelt and adjusted the loose wheel on Raina's chair. "Looks like you've been through hell, little sis." "You came back," she whispered. "Didn't like what I saw on the news," he replied. "Thought I'd come see for myself." He stood. And for the first time since the crash, Raina felt taller than everyone else in the room. His eyes were hiding something Raina hadn't. T slept all night, not because of the shock of Caleb's return, though that alone felt like a dream that might vanish at any second, but because something about him was ... off. He was different, taller maybe, or broader. His voice was deeper. That wasn't surprising, but it was the way he moved, too quietly, too deliberately, like someone who was still expecting to be attacked from behind. And his eyes, they weren't just tired, they were haunted. Saturday morning, the air smelled like cut grass and burned toast. Caleb stood in the kitchen, flipping pancakes, the same way he did when she was little, only now he wore gloves, thin black gloves that he didn't take off, even when he ate. "Don't you think that's a little weird?" she asked, pointing. He gave her a crooked smile. "I've got my quirks now." Their mum rushed around the kitchen like someone afraid to stop moving, afraid she might collapse if she did. She kept looking at him, then away, like he might disappear again. "So ... where have you been, exactly?" she asked, carefully. "Overseas," Caleb said. "Did a contract after the army. Couldn't talk. That was all. No details, no stories, just a wall." Raina watched her mother nod and swallow her questions, but she wasn't ready to do the same. They were walking through the neighborhood. Later that afternoon, Caleb pushing her wheelchair like it was second nature. They passed a group of younger kids playing basketball. Some stopped and stared. "People keep whispering about you," Raina said. Caleb shrugged. "Let them. I didn't come back for them. You didn't come back for me either. Not until now." He didn't reply right away. The only sound was the whir of her chair's old wheels. "I couldn't," he said finally. "You wouldn't understand." She looked up at him. "Try me." He opened his mouth, then stopped. His jaw clenched. "Let's just say I made a mistake," he said. "I thought distance would protect you." "From what?" Caleb didn't answer, but his hand briefly tightened on the wheelchair handles. That night, she had a nightmare. She was back in the cafeteria. Her chair was broken. Again, and Kendall was laughing, but then the laughter turned to screams. Everyone ran. Blood on the floor. The lights flickered. and standing in the middle of it all was Caleb, holding something in his hand, not a helmet, a gun. She woke up gasping, the sheets twisted around her legs. Her phone buzzed, one new message. No name, just a number. You think your brother scares us? He doesn't know what we know. Raina stared at the message. Her heart thumped. There was more going on. Something nobody was saying out loud. At school Monday morning, the air was electric. Everyone had seen the video. Caleb's dramatic entrance, how Jason had backed off, like a kicked dog. Even the teachers were walking on eggshells around her now. Kendall didn't look smug anymore, just irritated. I don't care if her brother's Rambo, she muttered to her friends. He can't stay forever. But Jason, he wasn't in school at all. Rumor was he'd been suspended after being caught shoving a freshman in the hallway. Some said it was retaliation for what happened in the cafeteria. Others claimed it was fear. Either way, he was gone, and Raina could breathe a little, but only for a little while. During lunch, Ms. Dove asked Raina to step into her office. I just need a minute, she said. About your brother. Raina raised an eyebrow but followed her in. I understand, he's protective, Ms. Dove said, carefully. But he's not on the school's approved visitor list. We'd appreciate it if he checked in formally before coming again. He's not a threat, Raina said. No one's saying he is, Ms. Dove replied quickly. But we do have procedures. Funny how those procedures didn't stop anyone from destroying my wheelchair. Ms. Dove flinched slightly. There was a pause. Then she leaned forward. Look, Raina, I shouldn't be saying this, but someone called the school anonymously, said your brother was dangerous, that he's not who he says he is. Raina stared at her. That's a lie. I believe you, Ms. Dove said gently. But we have to follow up. Raina left the office feeling cold all over. That night, she waited until Caleb was in the living room, watching TV with the sound low. You told me you were overseas, she said, rolling up beside him. But I know something's wrong. He didn't turn to face her. What did they say? He asked, eyes still on the screen. That you're dangerous, that you lied. Now he looked at her, not angry, not even surprised. Would it matter? He asked quietly. I want the truth, she said. A long silence followed. Then he stood up and walked to the window, hands in his pockets. I wasn't just overseas, I was doing contract work, private, off books. Raina's stomach twisted like mercenary stuff. He nodded once. Sort of, she swallowed. Why would someone say you're dangerous? Because I am. That silenced her. He finally turned round, expression unreadable. I've done things I can't undo, he said. But I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here because something's not right. Those kids, the ones who hurt you, they weren't just being cruel. They were pushing boundaries, testing how far they could go. That's not normal, you think. Someone's behind it. I think someone's watching. Later that week, Raina opened her locker and found something inside that stopped her cold. A folded piece of paper. It wasn't a note, it was a photo, old, grainy. From a distance it showed her at the hospital the day of her surgery last year, and beside her bed, Caleb. But here's the problem. He wasn't there that day. He was already missing. She brought the photo home and slammed it on the kitchen table. What is this? She demanded. Caleb picked it up. His face went pale. Where did you get this? It was in my locker, she said. You weren't there. I remember. I waited for weeks. You were gone. So how is this real? He sat down slowly. It's real, but not public. I don't understand. He rubbed his jaw. There's a group I worked for. They monitor people, not enemies, not threats. People who are important to someone. Leverage. Think I'm leverage. I think they didn't like me walking away from them. And now they want to remind me they still know where to find you. Raina stared at him. So all this, Kendall, Jason, the texts, it's not just bullying, it's a message. He nodded. And it's not over. The next day, Raina returned to school with a copy of the photo in her bag. She didn't tell anyone. Not yet. But she watched people differently now. Kendall was back to fake laughing and scrolling through her phone. Jason had returned to quieter, more watchful at one point. He passed her in the hallway and muttered, "Tell your brother to back off." She turned. "You afraid of him now?" Jason looked at her, not with anger, but something closer to fear. "I'm not afraid of him," he said. "I'm afraid of what follows him." The footage that was never meant to be seen Thursday started like any normal day, except nothing was normal anymore. Raina sat quietly at the back of homeroom. trying to pretend she wasn't aware of the sideways glances or the whispers that stopped. When she entered a room, since Caleb's return, the vibe around her had shifted. Not quite fear, not quite respect, something in between, like people were waiting for something to explode. But Kendall, she was watching Raina too closely now. Not with mockery anymore, with calculation, like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Between second and third period, Raina's phone buzzed. Blocked number. Checked the library's third computer. Folder labeled temp transfer. Her pulse jumped. She glanced around. No one nearby. At lunch, she wheeled herself to the library and logged in. The computer was sluggish, one of the old ones no one used unless forced. Sure enough, the folder was there. Temp transfer. She clicked. Inside were 2 video files. She opened the first. The footage was security camera. Quality grainy, black and white, but clear enough. It showed the cafeteria, the day her wheelchair was destroyed. From a corner angle, Raina watched the whole scene again. Jason stepping forward, bumping the chair with his hip. Kendall laughing as the chair tipped sideways. But then something she hadn't noticed before caught her breath. Kendall didn't look surprised when it happened. She looked satisfied, like she was waiting for it. Raina paused the video, rewound it, and watched Kendall whisper something to Jason just seconds before the crash. His head tilted. Then he moved in. It wasn't spontaneous, it was planned. She opened the second file. It was from a school hallway. This time, it showed Kendall standing near a door, the supply closet near the gym. She checked her phone, leaned against the wall, then reached into her backpack. What she pulled out made Raina's blood run cold. A small device, round, black. She couldn't see clearly, but it looked like a camera. Kendall opened the janitor's closet, stepped in for just 10 seconds, and came out. She looked both ways, then walked off. Timestamp, 7:32 a.m. Same morning her wheelchair was destroyed. Raina sat back in the chair, her throat dry. Why would Kendall plant a camera in a janitor's closet? And more importantly, how had someone sent her this footage? She quickly copied the files to a flash drive and logged off, heart pounding. That night, she showed Caleb the footage. He watched in silence. No reaction, just a steady, tense focus. When it ended, he spoke without looking at her. "They're not just messing with you," he said. "This is coordinated. Someone gave them access to that closet, and someone else is leaking this to you." "Why would anyone help me in secret?" Raina asked. Caleb finally looked at her. "Because they're scared, or guilty, or both." He leaned forward. "You still have that photo from the hospital?" She nodded and handed it to him. He flipped it over. A faint code was scratched into the back. SG431. Saw Caleb stared at it like he'd seen a ghost. "What is it?" she asked. He hesitated, then said, "It's a reference code. For surveillance-grade cameras, high-end. Not the kind schools can afford." "So Kendall didn't do this alone," Raina whispered. "No," Caleb said. "She's being fed. Someone's watching you, Rain. They have been for a long time." At school the next day, Raina acted normal. She didn't flinch when Kendall smirked at her in the hall. She didn't respond when Jason stared her down from across the lunchroom. She waited. Then, between 6th and 7th period, she took a detour and wheeled toward the janitor's closet. It looked ordinary. Unlocked. She opened the door slowly, glanced around. Shelves of cleaning supplies, mops, boxes. Then, she saw it. Behind a row of bleach bottles, tucked deep in the corner, the lens of a hidden camera. Still recording. Her chest tightened. She backed out slowly, shut the door, and turned the corner. "Right into Kendall, looking for something?" Kendall asked, smiling too wide. Raina held her stare. "Why don't you just say it?" "Say what?" "That you're being used." Kendall's smile flickered for a second. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice suddenly flatter. Raina wheeled past her without breaking eye contact, but she saw it, the brief crack. In Kendall's armor, she was hiding something, and she was scared. That evening, Caleb paced the living room like a man at war with ghosts. "I don't want you going back there," he said. "Not until I figure out who's behind this." "You can't just pull me out," Raina said. "That's what they want, for me to disappear." "I don't care what they want. I care about you." Raina rolled closer. "And I care about the truth. Caleb, this isn't just about bullies. This is about you, something you brought home." He stopped pacing. Silence stretched long between them. Finally, he said, "I never told you what I did during those 2 years." Raina swallowed. Tell me now. He sighed, sat down. I worked for a private contractor called Tech. It started off clean extractions, protection jobs, surveillance, but it got dirty fast. They used fear, manipulation, psychological testing on civilians. Raina's eyes widened, like mind games. Worse, he said. They created situations like trauma, accidents, just to see how people reacted. It was all data to them. And you were part of it. I didn't know at first. When I did, I tried to get out. But once you know too much, there's no easy exit. Raina's mind was spinning. So they're doing this now. To me, they might be, or they're doing it to get back at me. Either way, you're in the crosshairs. Later that night, Raina couldn't sleep. She sat in bed, flipping through her sketchbook. On one page was a half-finished drawing. Her chair, broken, surrounded by shadows. She picked up her pencil. And this time, she drew the shadows with eyes. Friday, 11:18 a.m. The fire alarm blared during second period. The whole school evacuated out back. It seemed like a drill, until smoke actually started coming from the east wing. No flames, just smoke. Confusion. Students murmured, laughed nervously. Then someone screamed. A loud crack, like glass shattering. Turned. The front door slammed open. A figure burst through, hoodie pulled low, black boots, moving fast. Security guards yelled, but the figure wasn't headed for the office. They were headed for her. Raina. Caleb's voice shouted across the field. The hooded figure reached her first. He shoved something into her lap, a manila envelope. You need to see it before they erase it, he hissed, then bolted through the crowd. Caleb was already chasing, but the figure vanished over the fence line. Raina stared at the envelope, stunned. On the front, for her eyes only, before it's too late. That night, they opened it together. Inside were printed photos, dozens, screenshots of chat logs, maps, surveillance photos of Raina, in school, at home, in the hospital. A typed transcript labeled, Subject 9-2A, Mobility Loss, Trauma, Emotional Pattern, Observations. Caleb's fists clenched. They've been monitoring your recovery, he growled, using you like a damn experiment. The second transcript was titled, Trigger Event, Social Aggression, Simulation, Phase 1 Complete. Raina stared at the final line of the page. Subject remains unaware of full manipulation protocol. Escalation viable. I'm just a test to them, she whispered. Caleb nodded grimly. Not anymore. Someone on the inside was helping them the next morning. The envelope still lay open on the dining table like a ticking bomb. Raina couldn't stop staring at the line. Trigger event, social aggression simulation. Phase 1 complete. What had happened to her? The bullying, the broken wheelchair, the isolation wasn't just cruelty. It had been orchestrated, watched, measured, and worse. She wasn't the only one. There were other files inside the envelope, some with names blacked out, others showing pictures of different students in different schools, girls, boys, all marked, subject followed by a number. Diagnosis, psychological trigger study. Caleb sat across from her, eyes bloodshot from not sleeping. I should have burned it down, he muttered, fists clenched. The whole program. Raina looked up. You said Soltec was finished. Shit, down gone. I thought it was. He paused. But if this exists, someone brought it back, or never stopped. By Monday, Raina noticed something else strange at school. The janitor's closet had been cleaned out. No hidden camera, no trace of the device she saw before. The entire shelf where it had been, gone, like it never existed. In the hallway, Kendall walked past her, no smirk, just a quick glance. Her eyes were wide, red-rimmed, like she hadn't slept either. Jason wasn't at school. Again, but someone else was. A new face. A substitute history teacher. Mr. Allen. Mid-30s clean-cut. A quiet, low voice. Dressed like a catalogue model for not-too-suspicious adults. But it wasn't how he looked that unsettled Raina. It was how he watched her. Every time she shifted in her seat. Every time someone spoke to her. Every time the class laughed. His eyes flicked over. Recording her that night. She told Caleb. He listened carefully, pacing in their living room while the sun dipped behind the curtains. You think he's part of it? She asked. I know that. Look, Caleb said. That's surveillance mode. He's not here to teach history. He's here to study you. Raina's throat tightened. They've planted someone. In school. Caleb looked her in the eye. They're escalating. Raina started recording everything. She used her old phone taped to her lap under a hoodie. Screen down, voice memo always on. She recorded her hallway interactions, class discussions, even the silence between moments. That's when she started noticing patterns. Students who hadn't paid attention to her before were suddenly acting strange. A junior named Mel, who never spoke, started dropping cryptic comments near her locker. "Did you know the school's Wi-Fi logs everything?" Like everything. Then she walked away. Another kid, Devon, bumped into her in the cafeteria and whispered, "You're not crazy. Don't trust Dove." Raina froze. Ms. Dove, the school counselor, the one who always seemed to calm. That night, she went back through the manila envelope. There, near the bottom, a reference to Asset D17, behavioral guidance and emotional deflection. She flipped the page. Ms. Dove's photo stared back at her. Codename D17 role, emotional gatekeeping, suppression of escalation. She dropped the paper. Her counselor was part of it. Tuesday, 10:12 a.m. A message arrived on her phone. Unknown number. "They're watching your brother too." A second later, a photo taken just minutes ago. It showed Caleb walking out of a local gas station. A red dot glowed on his back, a targeting laser. She didn't even think. She wheeled out of class without permission, pushing herself as fast as she could. She called Caleb over and over. No answer. Panic swelled in her throat like acid. Finally he picked up. "Get out of sight," she shouted. "They're tracking you." Silence. Then, "I see it. I'm already moving." Click. By the time he made it home, Caleb was pale and silent. He handed her a device, small, square, blinking red. "They planted this under the car bumper," he said. "Military grade, not civilian. Only reason I caught it was because I checked twice." "Why now?" Raina asked, shaking. "Why escalate now?" He sank onto the couch. "Because we broke their script." She stared at him. "They write a pattern," he explained. "They provoke pain, record responses, then manipulate closure. It's all artificial, but we went off script when that whistleblower gave us the files. Now we're threats, not subjects." She swallowed hard. "What do we do?" He looked up. "We hit back." Wednesday morning, Raina made her move. She wheeled herself into Ms. Dove's office and locked the door behind her. Ms. Dove looked up, startled. "Raina." Raina pulled the file from her bag, the one with Ms. Dove's photo. She slapped it on the desk. "Explain this." The woman stared. Color drained from her face. "I don't know what that is." Raina leaned forward. "I know. You've been reporting on me. I know this whole school is wired to watch. I know about the janitor's closet, the substitute, the tests. But most of all," her voice cracked, not with fear, with fury, "I know you let them destroy my chair and stood by." Miss Dove swallowed. Her hands trembled. "I didn't want this," she whispered. "It was supposed to be data collection. No harm, just patterns." "They broke me," Raina hissed. Ms. Dove looked away. "I tried to stop them. That's why they reassigned the handlers. You weren't supposed to know." "Too late. Please," Ms. Dove begged. "If you expose this, they'll erase everything, including us." Raina stared at her. "Then, let them try." She left the office without another word. That night, Caleb was already loading gear into his truck. Flash drives, burner phones, printed evidence. Raina sat beside him, both of them shaking, not with fear, but with something deeper. Readiness. Caleb looked at her. "There's one more file," he said. "Encrypted. I couldn't open it yet." He handed her the flash drive. She plugged it into her laptop. A folder blinked open. Project WITNS aside, hundreds of video files, all labeled with names, timestamps, emotional triggers, each showing a different student, bullied, tormented, studied. Most of them were younger. Some were crying, some were screaming, some didn't survive. Raina couldn't breathe. "These are the kids they ruined," she whispered. Caleb nodded, wanted to know what happens when people break. That night, Raina didn't sleep. She wrote a letter, not to the school, not to the police, but to every student in the footage, to every kid who had felt invisible, manipulated, humiliated, to survivors. And then, she and Caleb did something bold. They uploaded everything, the videos, the documents, the transcripts, to a secure whistleblower site. And at 3:47 a.m., the first leak went live, the truth went public, and all hell broke loose by dawn. Everything changed. Raina lay on her bed, eyes wide open, as her phone buzzed uncontrollably on her nightstand. Notifications lit the screen like Fireworks, news headlines, student abuse cover-up, secret experiments inside public schools. Project Witness leaked. Dozens of teens report being test subjects. Whistleblower drops bombshell. Surveillance, manipulation, psychological triggers in schools. Raina sat up, heart pounding. The air felt heavy, like the calm before a hurricane. Downstairs, Caleb was already awake. He stood by the window, watching a black SUV parked across the street. "They're here," he said, watching. "You think they'll try to take us?" she asked. "Not yet," he said. "They'll want to discredit us first, make us look crazy, then erase what's left." But it was already too late for them. The internet had the truth now, and it was spreading like fire. By second period, chaos had hit school. Students were glued to their phones. Some were crying, some were furious. One girl in Raina's class, a shy freshman named Lena, ran out sobbing after someone showed her a screenshot from the files. Her name was on the list. She hadn't even known she was being watched. Teachers looked dazed. No one knew what to say. In the cafeteria, a group of seniors held up signs that said, "We are not experiments. Justice for subjects." Then came the protests. Then the reporters. By lunchtime, 2 school board officials had arrived. By afternoon, Ms. Dove was placed on administrative leave. And by 3 p.m., Mr. Allen, the fake history teacher, was gone, disappeared without a trace. At home, Raina and Caleb didn't celebrate. Not yet. "We got it out there," Caleb said. "But this was just phase 1. Raina nodded. "They'll come for us now, won't they?" "Absolutely. The difference is, now they have to do it in daylight." That night, Raina received an email. No subject line, no sender, just a message. "Nice try, but you only exposed the surface. You still don't know what happened to subject 1. Attached, a photograph. Old, faded. It showed a little boy, maybe 6 years old, sitting in a hospital bed. His legs were bandaged, but Raina recognized something chilling around his wrist. The same ID band she wore after her surgery last year. Same hospital, same ward. "Who is he?" she asked. Caleb leaned closer, his face turned pale. "That's me." Raina's stomach twisted. "You were subject 1. Caleb nodded slowly. "I don't remember that photo, but I remember that room." He slumped into the chair beside her. "I thought I got into Soltech by enlisting, but I didn't. They selected me. Long before that. They've been watching you since childhood," Raina whispered. "And when I went dark, they didn't just track me, they used you to pull me back in." The realization landed like a punch to the chest. All of it, her accident, her surgery, the bullying had been part of a decades-old game. One meant to provoke, control, and reclaim Caleb through emotional warfare. And she had been the weapon they used. The next morning, a fire broke out in the school records office. Official story. Electrical malfunction. Reality. A cover up. All files from the past 10 years. Gone, but not erased. Because Raina had backed up everything onto 5 flash drives and mailed them to trusted journalists, anonymous data leakers, and civil rights groups. She wasn't naive. She knew the people behind this wouldn't go quietly. But now, they were, the ones hiding. Later that afternoon, Kendall found her near the front steps of the school. No entourage this time. Just her, raw mascara-streaked, hands trembling. "I didn't know it would go that far," she said quietly. Raina didn't reply. "I thought it was just a game, that they were filming it for anti-bullying stuff. They said I'd get a scholarship." "You tipped my wheelchair," Raina said coldly. "On purpose." Kendall nodded, ashamed. "Because I was told it was staged. They made me sign a contract." Raina looked her in the eyes. "They didn't make you enjoy it." Kendall burst into tears. For the first time, Raina felt nothing. No rage, no pity, just clarity. By evening, one final package arrived at their house. No return address. Inside, a black folder. The seal on the front read, "Final Protocol, Family Fracture Response." Raina opened it. The first page detailed everything that had happened to her in the past year. Her accident, her surgery, even the first day she met Kendall in class. Everything had been predicted. Caleb scanned the documents. His hands shook as he flipped the last page. In the event subject 1 resists psychological re-entry, the secondary subject sibling will be used for phase 2. If no compliance is reached, sibling may be terminated. Silence. Raina swallowed hard. They were going to kill me if he didn't come back to them. Caleb's face hardened like stone. Then we bring it all down. Later that night, 10:43 p.m., they stood in a dark garage downtown. The only light came from a swinging bulb above them. Raina sat in her chair. Caleb stood beside her. Across from them, a figure in a hoodie, the same one who delivered the envelope during the fire drill. He finally spoke. "I was a tech for Soltec 3 years. I didn't know what they were doing until it was too late." "Why help us?" Raina asked. "Because I watched what they did to other kids, and I saw your file. What they were planning." His voice broke. "I couldn't let it happen again." He handed Caleb a drive. "This is the root server. Every backup, every name, every internal memo." Raina took it gently. "Can they track this?" Caleb asked. "They'll try, but they'll be too late." 11:30 p.m. Final upload. They sat together, side by side, as the final data package was uploaded to 3 mirrored leak sites and distributed across the decentralized web. The screen blinked. "Upload complete." Caleb exhaled. "It's done." But Raina wasn't smiling. "Not yet," she whispered. Midnight. She posted one final message to her social media, a photo of her broken wheelchair, captioned, "You tried to break me to control him. You broke the wrong girl, the final variable." They couldn't control. The world was burning. Not literally, but headlines were everywhere. News stations ran non-stop coverage of Project Witness. Lawsuits had been filed. Congressional hearings were announced. Parents demanded answers. Protests erupted in front of school boards and private tech companies. And at the center of it all was one name, whispered and repeated like legend: Raina James. But Raina didn't care about being famous. She just wanted it to end. She rolled through the living room in silence. The walls were covered in sticky notes, string maps, and printed documents. Caleb sat on the couch, eyeing the last remaining pieces of the puzzle. There was only one target left. Dr. Evelyn Cormax, former head of Soltec's Behavioral Sciences Division, disappeared from public life 5 years ago, allegedly dead, except the whistleblower had recently recovered a live file, a schedule. It showed Dr. Cormax was set to appear in disguise, a private think tank conference in New York. She hadn't vanished. She had gone deeper underground. Raina clenched her fists. "The architect," Caleb said. "This entire operation Project Witness, Subject 1, Subject 9, 2A. It all started with her." Raina nodded. "Then it ends with her." 3 days later, New York City. The hotel conference center was sleek, modern, and filled with polite applause and soft jazz. Scientists, venture capitalists, and think tank heads mingled beneath banners that read, "Future of Youth" and "Neurobehavioral Health." The irony made Raina sick. She wore a dark blazer over her hoodie. Her chair had been upgraded lightweight, fast. Caleb walked beside her, calm but alert. His left wrist bore a pressure sensor linked to a silent panic alert. They slipped into the back of the main auditorium. A speaker stepped up to the podium. She was tall, gray hair tied into a perfect twist. She wore no name tag, but Raina recognized her. Instantly, Dr. Evelyn Cormax. End on the screen behind her. The human mind as ecosystem, harvesting behavioral data for progress. Raina didn't wait for permission. She rolled straight down the aisle. Halfway to the stage, she said, clear and sharp, "You harvested pain, not data." The entire room turned. Cormax froze mid-sentence. Raina continued, "You tracked me since I was 12. You told kids their suffering was science. You watched as I was humiliated, bullied, broken. And then you used it to manipulate my brother." Cormax composed herself. "Young lady, I think you're mistaken. No, I think you're exposed." Raina held up her phone. On screen, a live stream with 70,000 viewers, and counting. Her mic was hot. Everything was being recorded. The crowd began murmuring. Caleb stepped forward and said, "Your old employee gave us your server keys, your memos, your contracts. You're not a ghost anymore, Evelyn. You're a war criminal with a retirement plan." Cormax's mask slipped. Just for a second. Then security moved in, not to arrest Raina but to escort Cormax out. The audience erupted. That night, Cormax was arrested by federal agents in a secure Manhattan safehouse. Multiple accomplices were named. Several were educators, scientists, and private defense contractors. And the victims, they were no longer just numbers, they were survivors. 2 weeks later, the media still swarmed outside Raina's home. She stayed indoors most days, writing, drawing, healing. But something inside her was different now. She didn't feel helpless anymore. She felt strong. One afternoon, Kendall showed up outside her gate. No cameras, no friends, just her. Raina came out quietly. Kendall said, "I'm sorry, I've been saying that a lot, but I mean it." Raina nodded. "You weren't the worst, but you were still part of it." "I know," Kendall whispered, "but now, I want to be part of fixing it." Raina studied her, and for the first time in a long while, said, "Then start with telling the truth." Under oath, Kendall nodded, tears in her eyes. "I will." A month later, congressional hearing room. Raina sat at the long wooden table, cameras flashing from all sides, a nameplate in front of her read, "Raina James, Subject 92th Chairwoman." Leaned forward, "Miss James, in your own words, how did this begin?" Raina looked up. "It didn't begin when they broke my wheelchair. It began when people in power decided that pain was useful, that trauma could be data, that kids like me were lab rats." She took a breath, her voice steady, clear, "But what they forgot is that pain teaches strength, and when you push someone too far, they don't break, they rise." The room went silent. Then, thunderous applause. 6 months later, the SALTEC Accountability Act passed in Congress. Several top officials were sentenced. Anonymous donors helped fund Project Phoenix, a non-profit Raina and Caleb co-founded to help other students rebuild, recover, and speak out. Schools began implementing new safeguards. AI surveillance was banned in dozens of districts. More survivors came forward. More abusers were exposed. And Raina, she kept drawing. She spoke at schools. She finished her own physical therapy. And she finally received a brand wheelchair, one she designed herself. Sleek, custom-built. A message etched on the wheel rims: "I am not your test." One evening, she and Caleb sat on the roof, watching the sun set behind the city. He said, "You did it, you know." She looked over. "We did it." He smiled, "But mostly you." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "You came back for me." He wrapped an arm around her. "I never really left." Final scene at a public middle school across the state. A teacher unlocked her office. On her desk, a sealed envelope with no return address. Inside, a flash drive, labeled, "If you're still watching kids, we're still watching you, RJ." The end.